What's going on, everybody? It's Will from Herman's Outdoors, and in this video I'm going to be sharing my duck jerky recipe. Now, I've been duck hunting for about 6 years now, and one of the recipes that I use with the duck that I get is with duck jerky. I am a huge fan of making and eating duck jerky. One, because it's good protein, it's natural, it's low in fat. And I think the versatility of doing different spice rub mixtures and different brining techniques to get different flavor profiles into the duck when you smoke it is really awesome. So it gives you different versatility throughout the season and throughout the year in terms of what spice rubs and what flavors you're making with your duck jerky. It's one of my favorite things to make and one of my favorite things to eat. So here's my simple 1, 2, 3 duck jerky recipe. So the first step in making your duck jerky is obviously processing your duck. So for this recipe in particular, I've got breast meat from a pintail and a widgeon that I'm going to go through. So I've breasted out the meat. I've saved the legs for a different recipe. Second step of the process, I put the breast meat into a gallon Ziploc bag. If I've only got 1 or 2 ducks, I'll put it into a smaller bag. But then I fill it with water and about between 2 to 5 tablespoons of salt, normally kosher salt. I like the big grained kosher salt. And then about a teaspoon of pepper. Again, you can kind of play with the amount. And really what you're doing is creating a brine mixture to draw the gaminess and the blood out of the duck meat, so that when you're tasting your duck jerky, you're not tasting just straight duck, but you're getting the flavor from the smoke and the dry rub mixture or the teriyaki mixture or whatever you're using, and you're getting those flavors with a little bit of duck flavor, but it's not straight duck flavor. And that brining process will allow you to draw that out as a starting point. For me, you can go as quick as maybe 6 hours on a brine. I recommend for my recipe to do 2 days in the brine mixture. I've just found that seems to be the right amount of time to let the duck soak in that brine mixture before slicing it up and putting it on the smoker. So I've got my duck here in my Ziploc bags, and one of my tips is to always put it in a gallon Ziploc bag. They're nice and thick, but you never know, like they could always spring a leak. So I always put my bags in a bowl just in case something happens. Don't ask me why I know this, but if you have a leak in the bag, it'll go into the bowl and not all over your fridge, which will make the wife or the girlfriend happy that there isn't a mess all over the fridge. So put your duck in a bag, put your bag in a bowl, and then makes it super simple and isn't touching other things in the fridge and keeps it nice and easy and organized. I've got pintail and widgeon, and this is from a hunt from a couple days ago. So I'm going to take this duck out of the brine mixture here. Again, salt, pepper, and water. I got enough water. You can always add more water to make sure that your ducks are covered in here. So I've just got everything down on a paper towel, and then what I'm doing is I've got some extra feathers here, so I'm going to pluck those off. But what you want to do to start is just to pat down your duck and make sure that it's dry, so that when we put it so when we slice it up, it's easier to slice up, but also easier for the spice rub mixture to stick to the duck as before you're putting it on. So I'm just checking for feathers here. Those look pretty good. So again, I'm just going to pat down my duck. Got some feathers here. So then step 3 is to slice up your duck. Now, The thinner you slice it, the faster the smoking process will be. So, and then the bigger that you make your slices, the longer that it'll take. So you can kind of play around with how thick that you want your duck strips to be. Mine are usually no bigger than a quarter of an inch. I try to keep them pretty small. You'll obviously, with the shape of the duck breast, when you're slicing it, will have a little bit of some different shapes and maybe some different thickness on the duck, and that's fine. If you're smoking it and you want, say, after 3 hours, you got different consistencies for different pieces, isn't a bad thing. So you can kind of figure out your first time doing it, what's that right thickness, what's that right size, what's that right amount of smoke to create that right perfect piece of duck jerky that you're looking for. So I slice mine a quarter inch or smaller. I usually go the long way when I'm slicing it, and that way I kind of get those longer strips to easier sit on the grate, but also infuse more smoke into them. Once you slice your duck up, I put it in a bowl and then put my spice rub mixture in. Now, the amount of spice mixture you put in will depend on how much duck that you have. I would start out with a couple teaspoons of your spice rub mixture. Again, you just want to make sure you have a decent coating on the outside. You don't want it to be completely coated because all you're going to taste is the spice rub mixture then. So add in half a teaspoon to a teaspoon at a time, and then mix the spice rub mixture into the duck. You can always add more spice rub mixture, but you can never take spice rub mixture out if you've added too much spice mixture. So add in a little bit of time, get a nice even coating on all the pieces, and when you feel like you've got them coated to the amount of spice rub that you want, now you're ready to go and put them straight on the smoker. So for today's video, I'm using the Salt Lick Original Spice Rub. Salt Lick is a barbecue joint out of Austin, Texas. Great barbecue there. This rub they use on a lot of beef that they cook there. I like it for duck because between beef jerky and duck jerky, there's a lot of similarities, and this rub adds a lot of pepperiness. There's some onion salt, some paprika in here, and it kind of gives it that kind of beef jerky-ish taste, especially. So I'm using this spice rub. You guys can use whatever spice rub you like. If there's something hotter, something sweeter, something a little less peppery, there's plenty of different spice rubs out there. So I think this is the part of the recipe that can be most versatile in terms of what you can kind of experiment with and try differently throughout any batch that you do. But I'm using Salt Lick dry rub today as for the duck jerky recipe. So then the next step of the process is to smoke the duck. I'm using my Traeger for this. My timing is about 3 hours on smoke setting for this. I found after doing this enough times that 3 hours seems to be a good amount of time and the right amount of time for the jerky consistency that I like. Again, if you want it a little more chewy, you want to maybe not go as long, so maybe 2.5 hours. If you want yours a little bit harder, a little bit crunchier, you maybe want to go 3.5. After about 4 hours is pushing it sometimes. It really depends on the temperature of your smoker. You can dry out jerky too far to a point where it basically becomes rubber. So if you want to go a little bit beyond 3, I would just check it at about 3 and see where the consistency is at, and then determine if you need to add in another 15, another 30 minutes, or if you really want to go that full hour and make it really much harder of a jerky. So smoke setting, I do mine for about 3 hours. I put the duck right on the grill grate. I'll clean the grill grate really well before I'll put the duck in. I'll just lay the strips across the grate and spread them out kind of all over the place so that the smoke's able to infuse all the sides, but also you just don't have duck touching each other, so you've got separation. So each piece can get its own little space on the grate, and that you're able to smoke each piece more evenly. So that's my simple duck jerky recipe, guys. So just process your ducks, put it in a brine mixture for 2 days, salt, water, a little bit of pepper in a Ziploc bag. Put that Ziploc bag in a bowl, and that way it doesn't leak out all over your fridge. Don't ask me how I know. Take it out, dry your duck, slice the way you want to, put it in a bowl, add some spice rub mixture in there, and then put it on the smoker. I go for about 3 hours. The Traeger pellets that I typically use are oak or apple for duck. Those are my two favorites. Then after about 3 hours, my duck's done. I take it off, and voila, I've got duck jerky. Thank you guys for watching my duck jerky video. Definitely hit that like button, hit that share button. If you're not a subscriber of this channel, go down and hit that subscribe button. I've got more recipes to come this year. I'm super excited, but hope you guys enjoyed my duck recipe. Bon appetit, and as always, the outdoors is a gift. Share it with others.